Okay, now next thing we'll do is that we're gonna do the rigid bodies, the exploding crate here and the thrown away crate, the cones and the barrel. So let's drop down a new geometry node. Let's name it RBDs and let's pull in our assets. So we're gonna pull in this barrel, the crate, and these cones nearby. Okay, so let's drop in an object merge. Let's call this in barrel, and let's pull in the barrel. And where's my barrel? This is the barrel. This comes in here. Okay, all good. Now let's drop in another object merge, and that's gonna be the container, the crate, in crate. Okay, let's find it. It is here. Oh, good. And now we need the cones. Duplicate this guy. In cones. Okay, so those are just those 3 cones. Okay. And let's find them. Where are they? These guys. And they're going to be not these ones, but these ones. Okay, so if I just pull in all the cones and just blast the ones I don't need, it should do the trick. Hide. Oh, actually, yeah, I don't want the front one, so I'm just going to blast those. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is a couple things. So I have this crate. So you need to break the crate, right? I want simple stupid here, just RBD material fracture. And, I didn't even change it to anything but concrete. I think by default, the only difference is my first scatter point amount is 10, and I think the second one is default 5. I believe that's it. Now, if I do an explode, I can see what's happening here, and that's pretty much it. No, I think I did change one more thing. Yes, the first noise type is set to none, which should give us a bit more uniform, not uniform, but split even shapes. Now let's go here. This system doesn't even use glue because it's just gonna blow away. Now let's do an attribute delete. And let's have a look. So there's a lot of stuff here that I probably don't need, which is just because they're coming from FBX. I'm a little bit of obsessed with optimization. Obviously, you guys already know. Follow my tutorials. And then I'm going to put an RBD configure here. Okay, RBD configure is the default values, I believe. There's nothing different here, except maybe, no, I did force the shape to be convex hull. That's by default convex hull, but I probably do a little bit changes down the pipe. Now, an attribute randomize to the packed object. And not the color, but W is going to give us a little initial spin. I'm setting it to set value 10 Gaussian. Then the next one is that I wanted to give it a random velocity. So that's my inherited explosion velocities, let's say. Set value to 20, again, Gaussian. Okay. So because I'm going to simulate everything together, the only thing that I'm going to do now is that I'm going to group these so I can split them after and then pipe them to the correct places for rendering. Okay. Let's set the C, group as C. Okay, cool. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the cones. And I'm going to do something similar with the cones. I'm just going to copy paste the nodes instead of recreating them because we already did it once. And I'm going to walk you through now. Again, the attribute cleanup. These are already packed, but we can unpack them if needed. But actually, I think the RBD configure does that anyway. Here now we have 3 packed objects. The one super important rule with rigid bodies is the unique names. You always have to have unique names. Okay. Um, Here they are called asset container something. Here they call, because we're going to merge these down into a single object, so you have to have unique packed object names, otherwise Bullet's not going to be happy. Now let's go here, let's have a look. Okay, we have no RBD configure. This is packed, this is packed, packed, packed geo, packed fragments. That's going to work together, no problem. And finally, the barrel. Now the barrel doesn't get fracturing, but what does it get? This is not needed here because I already piped in from the correct place. A little bit of cleanup. No, this is not needed. A little more cleanup. I guess this is not needed as well. Doesn't matter. We just need PN and UV. PN and UV. That's good. I don't need this. Oh, this is actually copied from my old setup, but now I guess it's a bit more clean, definitely like this. Now the V is, we want this barrel to just shoot up, right? Because it's exploding somehow at the bottom and cinematically correct, let's say. So which means that I'm creating an initial value of 10.5 on y-axis, the magnitude of 10.5 on y-axis force. And I'm giving it a random rotation. Okay. And then RBD configure. So it's going to shoot up. It's going to get a random value from one of these points. Okay. This one is called A. Let's plug this in. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to bring in, oh, so we need the barriers as our collider. So object merge, because we do have barriers on both sides. So let's pull them in, and the road as well. So what do I have here? I have the road. Okay. Then I have the concrete barriers. Oh, actually, let's add one more. I do have the animated barrier as well, but this one I'm gonna turn off for now because animated. I do have the truck. This one I'm gonna add as well, but I'm gonna turn off because animated. We're gonna find a different solution for it, and then the rail. Okay. Let's put it in. Cool. Now if I go back into my RBD, now I have my collision shapes. Oh, where's my truck? Oh yeah, the truck is here. Okay. Actually, by the time the impact happens, which is around just before, I think, when the impact happens, I believe it's at frame 78 actually. So I'm going to, and at 78, everything is frozen anyway. However, I'm not entirely sure, so I'm just going to put a time shift here because 2 of my inputs are animated, which means that I'm going to kill their animation here. Okay, delete. All right, now my collision objects are here as well. Now all I need to do is to drop an RBD Bullet Solver. Now, my initial impact here is my pack fragment objects and the pack object. This should just work fine. Let's just double check. This should all be okay, yeah. And my start frame is 78 because that's when explosion happens. Now, if I press play, okay, everything is blowing up, but they're also going down. Oh, it's because my collider is not plugged. And also, I believe I didn't add a ground plane, which I probably can, but let's try the input first. So where's the colliders? The second from last. Let's plug this guy in. And now as you guys can see, the blue object is representing the collider tree. If I press play, something disappears there. That's awkward. Maybe because of all this information. Let's do a little delete. Maybe it's getting confused. I'm not sure. Let's delete everything here. Let's streak everything here and here. Okay, and I'm gonna unpack this as well. Maybe it was related. Yeah, it was somehow. All right, so now we have a nice big explosion. If I press play again, this is cool. Let's just save this as 04 RBD, okay? Okay, now we're just gonna cache this out. I'm gonna pull this here, but instead it's gonna be $hip. Oh, actually, I should get the firewall cache path because I will have to delete these once I package these cached information. No, copied the wrong stuff. Yes. And let's plug this in here. Let's call this RBDS simulation. RBDS sim. Okay, dokie. And RBDS. And now we're going to start from 78. And I'm going to cache this all the way. Okay, that should be fairly quick to do. And done. Now if I go here and load the sim back in. Okay, and as you guys can see, I'm not using if you have seen some of my older tutorials, I'm not using simulation points here because this is like a fairly easy simulation. And the only thing that I'm gonna probably do here is this already broken here? No, it's just, yeah, it's good. It's just a viewport thing. Now what I'm gonna do though is, as you guys can see, I only cached until 78, right? I start from 78. So I'm gonna put a time shift. I believe the new node has actually clamp first frame. So let's use the tools. Okay. And this is going to be the first frame of sims, which is going to hold the cache. Now we need to do the retime, which we already have from our car retime. So we can just literally copy this and put it in here. Okay. And we just have to make sure that this time the attributes are set to name as point attributes, and we don't need this. Okay, and if there's anything unmatched, I don't want to see it, so I'm going to delete. I believe now if I press play, so this simulation is a bit different, but we should get a little bit. Let me see the other one, maybe slightly modified here. I don't think so. Oh, okay, so let's do this one. So apparently I changed the keys here, but let's have a look what's happening. So I started 45, set the cubic. Yeah, maybe that's the difference. Then frame 70, it's at frame 70. Now, and then finally at 83, it's at 84. And at 140, it's at frame 100. Okay. So if I press play, let's make it slightly bigger. And now we have a super slow-mo cache. All right. Now the next thing we need to do is, because we want to render these properly, and we group them, if you guys remember, based on groups. So we're just going to give them a little blast here. A, B, C, we're going to split them and then feed them into the correct places to overwrite what we were supposed to render. Okay. So A, not A. B, and C. Because these are all different assets in our render nodes, we're just going to do the same thing. So this one is our barrel, out, barrel, and that's going to go in to what we render out. And then this is going to be cones, and it's going to be crate. And finally, we're going to feed them back in here. So what do we do here? We have these front cones, but not these guys, right? So what I want is I want to get rid of this. I want to object merge my simulated cache from RBDs counts. All good. And merge this in. Okay. And these are all packed. So pack points have a central, how to call it? I could pull these into a different node, the geometry to render, like RBD cones, static cones, but we're working here. We are not really concerned about the memory footprint here because these are fairly light scenes. So what I'm going to do is I want to make the most out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unpack this, and because these are like non-changing topology geometry, okay, and I'm going to do a trail swap here. So I can get that like a little spinning effect in my velocities, okay? And now this is my render object. So this is my real out cone render, okay? If I look at the render cam here, and then if I turn on my velocities, and now I'm getting retimed speeds as well. So that's exactly what I want, okay? Now let's turn off this guy. So that's cone. So we just have to repeat the same thing for the barrel. Object merge the barrel. Object merge the barrel, and then put the object inside from RBDs out barrel. And I can probably do the same thing. So I can just go in here, actually, just do this. Go into my barrel, paste this here. Oops. Go here. Okay, okay. And that's my barrel now. Just need the UVs, for the texturing. That's fine. Finally, we need the create update. So let's go into create object merge. Into this object. RBDs create goes in here. And let me go back and copy, paste those 3 nodes. Create, paste, and I think that's it. Let me see. Now if I turn this off, and if I press play. All right, so now it should all render properly. Let's do a little quick test before we move on to our next step. We just have to find a good frame. So at this point, there should be really motion blurred. Okay, so out. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new take for the environment on the. Okay, and because we already rendered the fire, so which means we need a new take for the environment. So let's go here. Let's call it E and V. Copy paste. Let's call this environment. Environment. Okay, and here now I'm gonna go set, because we do want GI to be on, and then I'm gonna turn this off. Okay, volume is 1 fine. Now let's set our object list. So I do want to render this, but I do want firewall to be a phantom because I want this to be affecting everything else. So like I said, it's not respecting these nodes as far as I'm concerned. I may be wrong, but what I do is I'm make sure that in my takes I set this properly. So if I go to environments, now what I can do is I need to make sure that the firewall render in visibility settings under Redshift is primary ray visibility is turned off, which is essentially what Phantom is, right? And now I need to make sure that everything that I render as a simulation is rendering with velocity set to velocity blur. That would be also because I want to use the V attributes that we created. So the cons as well, render, sampling velocity, velocity blur, and the barrel. Render, sampling, velocity blur. Now if I go out context, let's save our scene just in case. And here if I go out environment, now I need to turn on my motion blur, and I need to turn on the deformation motion blur. And for particles, if I have, which I will, I'll need to turn on the instances as well. One more thing, for these guys in Redshift, we need to turn on mesh deformation, and then you say use this attribute. Okay. Actually, I don't know if we need this when we have that, but I believe that should be good enough. So create on, barrel on, cones on, and that's all animated stuff from us. So now let's have a look. If I go render view, no, the environment render is going to render the environment level. Okay, render view. So if I go here now, environment, my camera, select it. All I have to do is hit render and see the result. And we'll see now. And okay, we're waiting for it to calculate. So now we have our rigid body objects flying around. They are motion blurred, and the fire is not there, but it's phantom. So when we render them separately, we can put the fire on top. Okay, as you guys can see, there's a lot of GI and so on and so forth. So this wasn't 2 seconds, it's 23 seconds and half HD, but it's still not bad. All right, so that's the end of the rigid body simulations network, and the renders are here, the video. Next up is going to be where we are going to create the impact particles, and then we will continue from there. Let me pull this in. Let's fix this area a little bit better. And let's put the lights here as well, maybe. Okay, and let's save our scene. I'm going to stop the video now, and then we can continue in the next one.